The short answer is just don't finish the books that you're reading. That's it. Now, the long-winded answer is a little more complicated. I really like reading books, but I know that in our day and age, it's not a very popular activity. Most people are scrolling Instagram, reading short articles, and our attention span has gotten so short. So reading a thick book, or even like a thin book, like some of these books that I've been reading, this is a book that I recently read, this is a book that I'm currently reading, it seems kind of daunting to take on such a task because it's not something you can do in one sitting. You have to actually dedicate time over the course of a couple weeks to finish a book. For some reason, we have this notion that unless we finish the entire book, we haven't read the book, right? Whereas when we're reading Wikipedia or reading a short article, like a news article, or reading Telegram channels, or reading Twitter, watching YouTube videos, most of the time we don't finish anything. When you're going through an article, you usually skim through, right? When you watch a TikTok, you don't watch most of them all the way through. You skip most of them. The ones that you really like, maybe you watch all the way through. But for some reason, with books, we don't do that. And the main thing here is that instead of people reading a little bit of a book or reading one chapter of a book or reading half of a book, they don't read anything at all because they're like, I have to read the entire book. No, you don't. You don't owe the author anything, right? And most of the time, most books are actually not worth reading. The vast majority of books are really terrible. They're really poorly written by authors that don't know what they want to say, and there's just mumbo jumbo. Even the books that are worth reading, most of the time you don't have to read every single chapter, every single line, every single word in every single book. You just have to read the things that you enjoy, maybe half of the book, maybe just a couple chapters, maybe you can skip through the book. Perhaps this author is like you and me and has one good idea that he wants to get across and decides to dedicate an entire 300-page book to it, whereas he probably could have just written a 10-page article and that would have been great. Second of all, you can read multiple books simultaneously. When you get bored by a specific book, that doesn't mean you have to stop reading it altogether. You can read part of a book, then get tired of reading that book and go read another book. Again, same thing right now. I've been reading this book, Destiny Disrupted, about Islam for the past month or two, and it's great. I've read a little bit over half of it, but I haven't finished it. At this point, I'm a little bored with the book, right? And as a result, I've been reading more of this book, The Great Game. And it's actually really funny. That book inspired me to buy this book. And this kind of brings me to my next point, is that the book can inspire you to learn and research a specific topic. Like for me, this book that I was reading by Destiny Disrupted, shout out to Tamim Ansari, by the way, he inspired me to read about Islam. And this book is what inspired me. I saw this book in a bookstore, I bought it, I started reading it, I got really interested in the topic of Islam and Islamic history, and I started reading into it about Wikipedia. I started reading other articles, I bought a couple other books about it, I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos about it. Now, not that I'm an expert in the subject, but it's really interesting to me. So I've learned the book did its duty in getting me interested in this specific subject, but just because I didn't finish the entire book doesn't mean that I'm some sort of a loser or something like that. I just didn't finish the book, and who cares? It doesn't really matter. So once you get that thought through your head that you don't have to finish any book, you can just read. You can literally just flip open to, I don't know, page 347, read 7 words or read 3 sentences and call it a day. You know what I mean? Nothing is against you skimming through books. It's like textbooks for studying for college or for classes. Most of the time, people aren't reading them word for word. You skip to the chapter that's relevant to your study at the moment. You read and you skim through the parts that you need to know, and that's it. You don't read anything else. And that's how you should look at books. Books are just like any other medium, like articles, like Wikipedia, like encyclopedias, like TikTok, like Twitter. It's just a reference that you can utilize. Now, big caveat, this does not apply to fiction books. I'm talking mostly about nonfiction books. That's what I read the most. That's what I enjoy reading. I don't read a lot of fiction. I don't read a lot of literature. What I do read, those are obviously a little bit of a different genre, and those have a story involved in them, and henceforth, it's worthwhile for you to read the book from beginning to end because that's what the author intended for you to do. But for anything else, for nonfiction, like I'm talking about, most authors are not very good at compacting their thoughts into one specific thing. That's why a lot of people, there's even whole apps dedicated to summarizing books at this point, because no one wants to read entire books. Now, I do recommend reading books because reading books is a really great way to force yourself to read and slowly digest information. It's very different to digest information via reading a book, which is a very laid out methodical argument, versus skimming through like a TikTok page about it or like a YouTube video that has to compact all the information into a very, very short time period. A book is a very great medium to learn to read by, but you have to dedicate your time to it. So number 1, don't finish most books. That's totally fine. Number 2, read multiple books at the same time. There's nothing wrong with this. I usually have about 5 or 6 different books that are open that I'm reading at the same time. And a lot of the times I'll get bored with a book and I will never come back to it. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. And number 3 is read a little bit every here and there. You do not have to make this part of your day, even though if you could, that's great. We can talk all we want about habits and all these other things. But be fine with just reading one chapter every 2 days, every 3 days. Just sit down, read one chapter. If it's really tough for you, if you can't focus at all, if the book is uninteresting, guess what? Just close the book and find a book that's actually interesting to you. Because if the book is uninteresting and you're forcing yourself to do it, maybe the book isn't worth reading at all. So find a book that's interesting to you. Fiction, nonfiction, doesn't matter. Read one chapter at a time every 2 or 3 days, and that's it. And then just do that for a little bit until the book gets boring to you. And then move on and read the next book.